Now, the Cricket World Cup is coming back to India in 2023. Remember, the last time the Cricket One-Day International World Cup was played in India was in 2011. At that point of time, some matches were played in Sri Lanka and other countries as well. India won that World Cup. So finally, in 2023, the World Cup is making a comeback in the country and fans are delighted over this. But yesterday, as soon as the entire fixture and the schedule of the World Cup was announced, there have been questions raised over the venues which have not been given preference this time. 10 countries across the country, 10 cities, I beg your pardon, across the country will be hosting the 2023 One-Day International Cricket World Cup. But there are some key venues which have been left out. Now, that questions are being raised on why has that happened. Mohali and Thiruvananthapuram are two important venues which have been excluded from the list. The BCCI is now being questioned over the choice of the venues. Now, Congress and the Aam Aadmi Party has questioned the BCCI over the venues, and a lion's share of the most important matches going to Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad. Meanwhile, the Punjab Sports Minister yesterday released a video. He said that this is bias against Mohali. Since 1996, Mohali, which has always hosted Cricket World Cup, matches, this time has been excluded from the fixture. Shashi Tharoor has also spoken about this. He has said it's sad that Thiruvananthapuram has not been given a chance. He also said Ahmedabad is becoming the new cricket capital. Is there some sort of politics being played as far as the selection is concerned, or there are commercial and other, in fact, issues which are dictating the term? Because it's just not that the BCCI is deciding the venue. There is the recommendation sent by the state cricket associations, and then, of course, it is the ICC along with the BCCI which fixes the venues. Joining me now to talk more about this and why Mr. Shashi Tharoor is unhappy with this entire fixture, let's go across live and exclusive to Mr. Shashi Tharoor himself, senior leader of the Congress Party and Member of Parliament. Mr. Tharoor, thank you so much for speaking to us. I want to start by asking you, sir, the World Cup is coming back to India. Fans are delighted. What is this controversy about Thiruvananthapuram and other venues not being included in the fixture, sir?
No, I'm sure it's nothing to do with politics, at least I hope not. But my concern is, why couldn't these guys have fought, for example, for more venues? We're a very large country. You've only got 10 venues for 45 matches, and multiple venues seem to have 5 matches each and so on, which frankly is an extravagance. If you had 3 more venues and everyone had 3 matches each, everyone would have been happy. It seems to me that the BCCI has a responsibility to the game inside our country, to promoting it, to getting world-class cricket to the audiences. And it's a shame that they've passed up this opportunity when they've got good stadiums. I mentioned Thiruvananthapuram. Mohali is another example. Ranchi is another example. These are stadiums where international cricket is often played. So why not for the World Cup? That's my big concern. 10 venues, fine, but we're a much bigger country than, say, England or Australia. Well, maybe not Australia in terms of geography, but certainly in terms of the number of cities we have that could be competing for these opportunities. It would have been good if the ICC had simply used its influence. The BCCI had used its influence in the ICC and got more venues.
But Mr. Tharoor, you would also know, being an avid cricket fan, that it's just not the BCCI's decision, right? The ICC is involved in this. The BCCI and the ICC said that it's a big occasion. Logistically, it would have been a nightmare to spread it across to many other venues as well. Security would have also been one major concern. How can it be, at this moment, like you said, you hope that there is no politics involved in this, but why would you then go on and say that, this is an unfair decision, sir?
Well, look, I mean, the fact is, if these places are good enough to host ODIs, test matches, and so on, as they all have done, Mohali, for example, even hosted a semi-final in the 2011 World Cup. How can it suddenly become unsuitable? I find that reasoning extremely specious. And in fact, I'm glad to say Thiruvananthapuram has been given some of the warm-up matches that the teams will be playing for practice. So clearly, there's no shortage of hotel rooms or anything else. Remember, you're only talking about 2 teams at a time. You're not talking about bringing all the 10 teams into one city. So I think this logistics argument is grossly exaggerated.
You know, like you mentioned, sir, Mohali, Thiruvananthapuram, even Ranchi, these are all non-BJP ruled state. Out of the 10 cities which have been selected, there are still about 4 to 5 cities which are in non-BJP ruled state. Why do you think that there is a certain point of view or a certain dispensation which is trying to prove a point by, giving most matches to various states? I mean, take for example, you've raised that concern about Ahmedabad itself becoming the new central hub as far as cricket is concerned. What are your reservations on that?
One tries to be a little subtle and you spell it out, Ankit. What can I do? The fact is that certainly does seem that there is a certain particular point of view's dominance. I mean, we've seen Ahmedabad, for example, not just getting the first match of the tournament and the last match of the tournament, the final, but also getting the two biggest marquee matches of the entire tournament, India versus Pakistan and England versus Australia. Now, that can't just be accidental. No one drew a lot and arranged that. This is obviously a question of the amount of clout commanded by Ahmedabad through its voices on the board. And I think we have to understand that this is the way the country is going at the moment. I'm prepared to live with the reality. But I just felt that even if that is the case, they can still manage to, as I said earlier, sort of spread the benefits a little more widely and take everyone along. This is a vast country and the tournament belongs to every Indian, doesn't it?
Absolutely, but former India captain and of course the former president of the BCCI, Saurav Ganguly, has defended the choice of venues. He said all the venues which have been chosen are world-class venues. Do you still see politics in this, sir?
Look, I think very highly of Saurav. He's a friend. I would prefer to trust his judgment on that. But just to say that there are some things that cannot be explained entirely on, shall we say, merit alone. But anyway, again, in a country like ours, a certain amount of political influence is bound to come in. I'm not here to bring politics into cricket, to be honest. Politics pervades every aspect of our society already. And if we can keep as much of it out of cricket as possible, so much the better. But there are some things people are bound to notice, and that could have been anticipated and avoided by being a little more generous, in my personal view.
You did mention Mohali, and the government of Punjab took a very strong exception of Mohali not being included as far as the World Cup 2023 fixture is concerned. Since 1996, Mohali has always been, a host of a few of these matches. In fact, in the last World Cup, it was the exciting India-Pakistan match which was played in Mohali. The government of Mohali is taking it up in a big way. Do you think the government of Kerala should also make a case for Thiruvananthapuram?
Well, I'm in opposition in Kerala as well, so I can't speak for the government of Kerala. But any government that cares about its cricket fans, and in fact in Kerala, the sport has been growing in leaps and bounds in the last 20 years or so, it would certainly be in their interest to also make an issue. I am quite sure it's too late to change anything, because I don't imagine that once you've announced the fixtures, announced it worldwide, and people in foreign countries have already started buying their tickets and planning their holidays, I don't think you can now bring about changes without causing a serious amount of inconvenience. I remember hearing several earfuls from foreign friends who had booked tickets to Dharamsala when we were playing in the last series in our country, in the Test series, and then the match got shifted to Indore. This is against Australia. And a lot of people had booked hotels and air tickets and so on, coming from foreign countries, who felt very gravely inconvenienced. So I just understand that once these decisions are made public, that it's as good as irreversible. But there is absolutely nothing wrong with expressing regret and pointing out that there are feelings around the country that have also been wounded in the process.
All right, let me give politics a little pause here. You are a big cricket fan, an avid follower, and I often see you tweeting about Indian matches and, of course, other cricketing fixtures as well. What is your prediction? What are your hopes for the 2023 World Cup, sir?
Look, I'm very, very hopeful, Ankit, because we do have a pretty strong team. We are usually considered unbeatable in home conditions, which is why the excitement about a home World Cup already goes up because of that. But, this is a sport where you never take anything for granted, and there can always be surprises on the day. So, I refuse to be complacent, but I think we have a pretty good chance of going all the way in 2023.
Mr. Tharoor, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing your views on NDTV.